Well, hello one and all, and welcome to our short on variables. Now, a common function of computers is telling us what time it is. And here, I have a program called clock.py to do that. Down below in my terminal, I can run Python of clock.py and see that it is 7 a.m. in US Eastern Time. But of course, on line 1 here, it seems like no matter what time it is, it will always be 7 a.m. in US Eastern Time. Well, the time, of course, might change. Even if it's 7 a.m. right now, it won't be in 1 minute or 2 minutes from now. So we need a way to keep track of this value, like the time that might change while our program is running. Well, for that case, we can use a variable, where a variable is some name for a value that might change. To create a variable in my program, I can do this. I can first think of what name I want to associate with some value. In this case, I might make a variable called time. So I'll simply type time in my program. I'll then have an equals sign, which stands for assignment. I want to assign some value to this variable. What value do I want to assign? Well, in this case, I'll assign the piece of text 7 a.m. And this is a piece of text because I know I have double quotes here. So whatever's inside is some piece of text. So to read this again, we've created now a variable called time. We're going to assign it using this equal sign here, or the assignment operator, some piece of text, 7 a.m. Well, the beauty of a variable is that if I give it some name, I can actually print the value inside of it simply by using the name. So here, if I print time, I won't actually see T-I-M-E, literally. I'll see instead the value being stored inside of this variable called time, or the value that it was originally assigned. Here on line 1, I'll run Python of clock.py, and I'll see 7 a.m. Well, what other variables could we create? Time zone might be something that could change too. So here on line 2, I'll make a variable called time zone, and I'll assign it the value US Eastern, again some piece of text, and then here on line 5, I could print time zone as well. Now if I run Python of clock.py, I'll see 7 a.m. and US Eastern. So variables are good for associating, in this case, values with names that I can then reuse in my program. But of course, these values might change. And again, the beauty of a variable is we could change the value associated with this name. Well, let's say later on, I travel across the world and I go to Nepal. Well, over there, it might be 4:45 p.m. instead. And my time zone will have certainly changed. I'll actually be in Kathmandu time. So originally, I had these two values for my variables. But then later on, I changed the value associated with them. Well, now if I print these two variables, let's see what we get. I'll run Python of clock.py, and I'll get the latest value that was assigned to them. So in this case, 4:45 p.m. Asia Kathmandu time. So one way we can use variables is by changing, in this case, the value we assign to them. Another way to use them is to combine them in certain ways. So here, if I wanted to kind of replicate what I had earlier, where I said some time in some time zone, well, I could do that using my variables. Here, in my print statement, I could concatenate the values inside of these variables with other strings or pieces of text. So here, I could say time and try to concatenate a new piece of text, in, and then on top of that, concatenate or append some other piece of text, like that associated with our variable time zone. So what should we see? Well, I should see the value that time is storing, most recently 4:45 p.m., concatenated with space in space, some new piece of text. That concatenated with here, our text associated with time zone, or Asia Kathmandu time. I'll run Python of clock.py, and here I'll see those values inside those variables being concatenated together. So here, This works because we're storing what we call strings, or pieces of text inside of these variables. When we have variables that store pieces of text, this plus sign stands for concatenation, or combining our pieces of text together. But of course, our variables might store different kinds of data, not just strings or pieces of text. They could also store numbers. It turns out, in your computer, we often keep track of time as a number, the number of seconds that have passed since January 1st, 1970. So let's take a look at that approach here. Let me delete these variables and go back to having just one called time. Well, time was originally assigned this string, 7 a.m., but it doesn't have to be assigned a string. In fact, I could assign it some number. I could assign it this number here, 174-160-4400. This is the number of seconds that have passed since January 1st, 1970. So now, if I run Python of clock.py, I will see that number down in my terminal. And now that I have a number inside of this variable, well, the plus sign means something different. If I were to type time and then try to assign it some new value, well, I could actually take the current value of time and add on some number of seconds. Let's say 1 minute passes, for instance, or 60 seconds. Here, if I run python of clock.py, I'll see 60 seconds have passed since our first running of this program, at least according to us adding in manually here 60 seconds. So we've now seen the different kinds of values variables can store. They can store things like strings or pieces of text, and they can also store numbers. When we store different kinds of values, the kinds of things we can do with those values changes. With strings, we can concatenate them, combine them together. With numbers, we can add or we can subtract. Variables are all important in our program. They help us keep track of things as they change throughout time. This then was our short on variables, and we'll see you next time.